What up, folks? Jiu-jitsu here. I'm so happy to be back with Coach Tony Patarino, a good friend of mine, and one of my coaches. So, what we want to talk about today is whatever Coach Tony wants to talk about today. Actually, what I wanted to dive into and some things he's been talking about and expressing in class, a lot of adding the sports mindset to your jiu-jitsu. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean from Coach Tony's interpretation that you have to compete, but it's just adding some of those aspects of athletic ability and just the mindset of competitive sports that could kind of help improve your training. So do you want to talk about that a little bit and let us know what the deal is?
I mean, we've been, 2 months now? We did the reformatting thing. We've been doing the warm-ups and the repetitions and everything. And I know last time I spoke to you, we talked about the repetition is what's missing.
Exactly.
Right? So we've been doing that for a few months. And not only am I getting positive feedback, but I'm seeing positive results.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
So, I mean, the guys, even from, I teach the Wednesday, Thursday class, right? Yep. So I did the same exact warm-up, the same exact technique, literally everything the same Wednesday, and then again Thursday. And I did that for 2 weeks in a row with what I was teaching.
Exactly.
So this week we did we're on that whole chaining submissions thing, right? That was the warm-up, the arm bar, triangle, omoplata, right? So the Wednesday guys that also come to Thursdays, I'm like, all right, maybe they're going to get bored, right? Oh, they probably want to learn something different.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I asked them for the feedback, like, no, this is good. Like, I'm really getting this here. Right. And I can already see the difference Thursday compared to Wednesday. Just automatically, just from the reps.
And is there a consistency? Because I want to stop you with it right there and talk about it. Because I think you listened to that when I talked to you about this before I did one of my posts about seeing one technique like omoplata once in like 2019 and then not seeing it again until like 2022, right? Like, and I know switching gyms and things, but like in the same gym, I will see one thing. Steve might show one technique, omoplata, and then I might not see it again for like a year and a half.
Yeah, got to rep them out.
Right? Well, yeah, I'm taking notes and I have more time and more exposure now to remember what those things are, but like even that in itself, like, I missed having repetition from other activities, but here that's helped me tremendously.
Yeah, and it's a balance because in the beginning, jiu-jitsu is what, a 10,000 piece puzzle, and each time you come to class, you get a couple pieces at a time.
Right.
And then you can start forming your own picture. So you kind of have to find a balance between things. Because if I'm constantly repping out only two things, you're not seeing the whole picture.
Right.
So in the beginning, you're just a sponge, like, oh, what's the, what exists? Okay, this. And I feel like white belt is good just to kind of absorb the knowledge, do some movement, learn the self-defense. Once you start getting going, the reps are what's important to really solidify the foundation and solidify what you want to do. And eventually, you get enough pieces to where you can actually start to form your own picture and your own style of jiu-jitsu. Right. Everyone's known for different things. You're known for having an impassable guard, right? And the triangle.
That's thanks to you. Thanks to your help, man. Appreciate that.
You can build a game around your guard, finding different entries into the triangles from your guard, right? Even from the top, finding different entries.
Right.
And then working, we're talking about chaining submissions, right? So what fits really well with the triangle? Well, we just talked about the omoplata, we just talked about the armbar. Right. Other things exist too, but you want to try and synergize with all of those little pieces. Like what is really close to what you're already trying to do, so you don't have to move so far, reorient all the pieces of the puzzle, like move the arm here, switch the grips there. It should fit automatically in. So were you there the other week when we did held choke into armbar?
Yep, I love that.
Right?
I love that.
So everyone was asking, okay, well, what's after the held choke? What combo? Right? And look, we were already oriented. All I had to do was just grab the arm. My feet are already in the position. His body's in the position. That synergizes really well. Right. But to go from the held choke to now jump on for a knee bar, it's completely different, so far away. You have to reorient all of the limbs in relation to each other.
So different.
So synergize. That's how you can build a good foundation and rep those out.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, I had a good talk with John, and John was great with putting those things together. He's so modest about it. Like, I think now that he's competed that one time, he's going to be a little more like, he's thinking whether he competes again or not. I'm not sure, but like he's something awakened in him that I'm so happy for. And he's like one of my favorites.
Big time.
Yeah, like,
and if you get caught in a submission at a tournament, you will never get caught in that again. You're going to be like, okay, how did he get me? How do I prevent this? It just takes it up to another seriousness level.
Big ups
where you
to
really focus.
Islam. Bro, I love what you're doing. I love your MMA. Maybe we'll get on here, but he hit me with a toe hold.
Yeah?
Never again.
Yeah.
When I've been toe holding everybody in the gym since then. So
there
thanks,
you go.
bro.
You just made
you
him
did
better.
me a favor, man.
There you go.
But yeah, I get that. Like you remember, whether I win or not, like I remember so much from competition.
Exactly.
I'm like, I need to work on this. Like last time, even though like double gold, I did good. Thanks for your help. Thanks everybody for your help getting me ready. And Drew, I'm always going to give you a shout out. I remembered that I needed to start using the game I'm comfortable with.
Yep.
Like, right. So I started doing that. I was using guard a lot. I was going for leg attacks, which I could do respectively. Like, obviously, there were no heel hooks. But there was also another piece to that puzzle where I was realizing that my triangles, everybody shut down every triangle attempt.
Okay.
And I realized that the more I'm training, the more advanced my opponents are, the more they see it coming. Like, I have the best setup, I think, in the world. My top tier, high percentage, and they find a way out. So I'm making some mistakes, obviously, but I think some of what you're saying is finding new entries for it. Because I always do the standard open guard. I do the things. I can get it, but like when I'm shooting for it, they can see it coming.
Yeah.
So I need to start maybe masking that with something else or finding a new way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, certain entries are superior to others with any submission. There's a ton of entries. Like, I like the crucifix, right? There are certain entries that you fit right into the crucifix with the legs on the proper side. He's already in. You're just 99% to the sub once you hit the crucifix entry.
Yeah.
There are other entries from top side that is probably my sloppiest entry. I know how to make it work because I've been doing crucifix for years. I know exactly the details, the where to hold, all the good stuff, how to shut the defenses down. So that entry works for me, even though it's the sloppiest and the most unsound, because I know how to kind of work my way into the better position and still maintain, even though it's sloppy. Would I teach that entry as the first one? Absolutely not. Teach more of a solid, consistent, foundational, keep it simple. And then you can start building from there.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, certain entries are more superior to others. So either work one that's super simple, super effective, that gets you most of the way there.
Right.
And then you can work different entries, right? But let's say you already have them in the triangle position, right? Triangle guard.
Right.
If you're trying to advance from triangle guard to the actual submission itself, with the arms across and you got your feet locked up and everything, try and think during that process, is there one particular point during that whole procedure where everybody is shutting you down? Or if it's random, right? If one guy stops you here, one guy stops you there, and just in general, just get more experience, do more. But if you're getting shut down at one specific instance every single time by multiple people, your technique needs to get better right there.
Right.
Right? Whether it's, I can't get the guy's arm across. Let's just pick that. He's always here. He's always framing. He's got the, on this side, hunkering down. Yep. How do I get it across? Everyone stops me from getting across.
Right.
Got to work that. Right? Get the proper grips, bridge up, do the ratchet thing, bridge up again, ratchet it over.
Right.
You know, there's certain things that you can do to help circumnavigate the defenses.
Right.
Right? So, like I was saying at the end of class Thursday night, remember? We gave that whole speech about just this topic. Like, let me know if you guys are getting shut down at the exact moment each and every time. That's where you got to ask me, how do I get past this? Break through that ceiling to the next level.
I appreciate that too.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like, for me, sorry to cut you off.
No,
like,
please.
I mean, I'm old enough that I shouldn't care, but I feel like I'm past the point where I'm shy about asking for help. Because now I'm like, no, if I want to get better, I have the knowledge in front of me if I want it, but I need to stand in front of the class and be like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah.
So can someone please teach me this basic detail? That the white belts can look at me and be like, bro, you don't know that? I'm like, no one knows that, I guess. I don't know. I don't care anymore. Like, I just want to get better. Like, people are going to tap me. I'll do my Morse code, but, like, I just want to improve my game. So I'm past the point where I'm worried about saving face on the mat.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's how you get better at anything, not just jiu-jitsu.
Right.
In order to get better at anything, for true growth to happen, you have to be true to yourself. You cannot lie. You have to have an ego death. You cannot protect your ego and be like, oh, I don't need to ask you. I'm going to be ashamed or embarrassed.
Right.
You have to be willing to put yourself out there and know the absolute truth. Even when I'm teaching, I'll show certain things. And I can't just teach only my game. I can't make people just out of my image, right? Like, here's armbar and crucifix all the time. Can't happen. I have
You're
to
not
teach,
trying to make clones.
exactly.
Right?
I have to teach the foundations, and you guys, put your own puzzle pieces together to form your own picture, right?
Right.
So there are certain things that I'll teach that there's a balance. I need to know what I'm talking about. I can't just teach something that I don't know what I'm doing or I've never done before, right? But at the same time, there are things where I kind of know, but I will tell people, like, hey, I'm not the best at this stuff. Strategically, it's not for me. It's not part of my game. But these are the pros and the cons. I'll never tell someone not to do something because it doesn't work. Anything might work. It just might not work for me.
Right.
Depends on style, body sizes, different things, right?
A lot of factors.
A lot of factors. But you just touched upon something that, again, the growth for everybody. If people are willing to ask the questions, to put themselves out there, be willing to fail, be willing to be embarrassed, that's how you grow. And honestly, there's nothing to really be ashamed of or embarrassed about. Like I said, even me as a teacher, I said sometimes I'll teach something and I'll be like, look, you asked me about a guillotine, go ask Steve. He's way better at guillotines than I am. Like, I suck at guillotines. It's not part of my game. Go for it.
I want to touch on that real quick before I forget. So me, obviously being new, my background, folks, like doing so much Aikido, being newer to helping coach like Jiu-Jitsu, like being an absolute novice, I'm very careful with what I offer in class. I don't do the experimentation thing. I try to teach what I'm comfortable with.
Absolutely.
And I'm totally open about like, hey, I'm learning just like you. I got a few more miles down the road, whatever, I'm mile muck or 3 or something, but here's what I'm working on, blah. And then obviously, like, you'll come in sometimes and help out, and I'll extend the invitation to come and train at the gym with us, like when I'm at the rec center. And even in the teens class, I mean, you're there, like, hovering, not helicopter parenting, but I'm going to be careful with what I say. Not just because I don't want to embarrass myself, but there's no point in me trying to pretend I have more understanding of something than I actually do.
Yeah.
And especially for the teens, right? Because they're looking up to us.
Yeah, exactly.
More than we know.
Yeah,
So
which you're phenomenal with the kids,
Thank
by
you,
the way.
thank you.
Like, absolutely phenomenal. You keep them engaged.
That's
You
like
give them the
tag
right
team
details.
on
You got it. Yep.
teens class.
Yep.
Yeah, so like with that, like I'm very careful. And they'll ask things all the time. So like, hey, let's ask Coach Tony like what's happening. Or same thing when I'm doing the kids class with like Ben and Rachel. I'll be like, hey, we'll ask Coach Rachel or Coach Ben because they know like their wealth of knowledge I get from assisting and the level of detail they transmit to the children and what you do with the teens. Like I've learned probably more jiu-jitsu from helping with those classes than I have going to any other gym or anything because I have to be so focused on what I'm doing. Everything I share, I have to bear in mind that like what I tell them is what they're going to try to replicate. And I'm not trying to say it has to be perfect, but I have to hold myself accountable.
Yeah.
I can't just slop stuff together. And I'm from a place where sometimes people, I said this before, where they'll like show things that are concepts instead of showing their best without the disclaimer that like, hey, let's experiment today.
Right.
Right. And I liked how you explained that, not to just credit anyone. Like I don't want to teach that way. And especially since I'm still learning, I probably get a pass because like I'm a purple belt and still new. But at the same time, like I want to be clear on what I'm offering and that I'm still on that path too. Like I feel like it doesn't.
That's honestly what makes you, no matter where you are in your teaching progression, if you're new to teaching, medium, advanced teaching, that mindset, mentality is by definition what's making you a good teacher.
Thank you.
Right? There's the whole teacher-student relationship. Students have to trust you in order to learn from you. If they don't trust you, it doesn't matter. If they don't trust you or like you, it doesn't matter how right you are or how well-spoken you are. It's going to go in one ear and out the other. Doesn't matter. So it's a huge responsibility as a teacher to do the right things for your students and to be honest with them, to be honest with yourself, and to make sure you're doing what's best for them.
Right.
It's the only way the dynamic works.
Yeah, I hear
It's the only way.
So how did you, this is a tricky question, I know you'll have a solid answer. How have you navigated that aspect of your teaching? Because you've been teaching for a long time, and obviously you're a professional teacher in tennis and whatnot, so you have a lot of experience. How have you navigated those relationships with, say, like difficult students who are maybe resistant for whatever reason, like resistant to what you were offering in class, or they just caught you on a bad day? Like, how do you navigate that sort of situation with people?
So resistance in what way? Just
Like
kind
you're
of
showing
unfocused,
something and
or-
they're like, oh, I learned this thing off the internet, so I want to do it this way kind of deal.
Yeah, I definitely bite my tongue when I hear the whole I saw this on YouTube thing.
The internet jitsu. I love internet jitsu. Folks, I'm a purple belt. This is my purple belt experience. We were just talking about, by internet jujitsu, I mean like the fun new thing that is above my pay grade, and it's great, but I need years of experience to master it, and I can't just do it on the fly. Or maybe you can, but I'm talking about that. I'm talking about brand new. I'm a white belt. I just saw this cool thing that whoever
Yeah.
did. I want to do the flippy flip into the spin back take kind of.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, like I said with the white belts, you just want to soak up all the info,
Right.
see what's out there. So YouTube is great for that. The problem is it's hard to filter out what works, what's practical, what doesn't work, what's nonsense. Like it'll never work against resistance, or it might only work one time and then the defense is too easy to it.
Right.
I've seen things on YouTube. I mean, anyone can make a YouTube video
Right.
and look cool when someone's not giving you resistance,
Right.
right? I like the guys that put the YouTube videos out there. They show them hitting the move in competition multiple times, and then they teach it. That's legit,
Right.
right? But anyone can make a YouTube video, so you got to be careful. So when my students come to me, or I'll teach private lessons, and
Right.
they say, "Hey, I saw this YouTube video," I'm like, "Okay, talk to me about it. Roll me through what it was like. Maybe I can help you." He's like, "Well, you showed this, and let me try this." I said, "Okay, that could potentially work. Let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. Let me show you the pros and cons of doing
Right.
it like this."
Right.
But and I just give my own 2 cents.
Right.
And again, there's multiple ways to skin a cat, right? You can do the arm bar 1,000 different ways.
Right.
I have my own style of the way I like to set into my arm bars.
Right.
Other people have their own versions of the way they like to do things. As long as it works and it's practical.
Right.
But there is such a thing as good technique and bad technique.
True.
Right? Honestly, I don't even want to call it bad technique. I would say superior and inferior. And the way I'm defining that is, the true essence of jiu-jitsu, right, is technique, leverage, and timing, right? So basically, in order to define superior and inferior technique, superior technique is when you do something very small and accomplish a lot.
Gotcha.
Inferior technique is when you do a lot and accomplish very little. Stop. No, not even true. Not true.
Watch my competitions. I'm flying around, man.
So the way I like to think about my arm bars and the way I like to enter my arm bars,
Right.
I find, in my opinion, I could be wrong, right? Ask other black belts because they have their own ideas and opinions to this on themselves. But I have one particular entry for arm bars. I have a lot of entries, right?
That's
But you know the one
right
I'm
now. That
talking
one
about.
works for me.
My A++ entry. If I want a submission, this is what I go for, because we talked about timing, right? So at a certain moment in time, that's the time to escape, or that's the time like now I can defend. I can go for the arm pushing the leg off my head and come up. I can go for the hitchhiker escape.
Right.
There are certain moments in time. I find that this one particular entry, the way I sequence and control as I progress, shuts down the time to do the escape before the time to escape happens. So I am free to go as slow and methodical and enter as slowly as I want, and it shuts down the escapes.
I got you.
Right? So that's my move. For me, the inferior one, to me, and again, this is my
It's your take on how you
my
do that,
take,
right?
like this I'm going to call an inferior armbar entry, but again, I might stink at this particular armbar entry.
Right.
The spin around armbar where you just kind of spin and get into it
I
and go
messed that
immediately.
up, 'cause
right?
You're really good at that one. It bothers me
well,
how much you catch.
Everybody hitchhikers in there. So I'll do the spin around armbar, like the slower, more methodical setup. But if I have to do it fast, I don't immediately sit into the armbar. I want to make sure I spin around fast and either catch the leg or grab the other arm because I need to shut down the hitchhiker.
Gotcha.
I know there are ways to control it, either a Kimura grip or like the bro grip and go like this. I find that I'm not as good at doing those.
Okay.
Right? So I do the other ones, right? Or I just do a variation of the one where I have to do the speed, right? To spin around and speed my way into it.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But the thing is, again, I find it inferior when I have to use speed to make something work. I'm not truly in the best control if I have to teleport from here to here because during this gap, they're going to escape. I don't like that. I want to be able to go as fast as I want, but have the control the entire time. If you don't have control the entire time and you have to jump to something to maintain control, I find that I know there could be there's a better way of doing it.
Got you.
Right?
Right.
I shouldn't rely on the speed. Now, if I already have every single sequence and step down where I can control the entire time, now I can go as fast as I want.
Got you.
Because I know I'm gonna circumnavigate their resistances or defenses or whatever space they're trying to create. Because no matter how fast I go, I'm in control the entire way. I'm not relying on the speed. You see the difference there?
Yeah.
Right?
I want to touch on something that
Sure.
you talked about in that really quick. I noticed, and I've probably read this and seen this in video, but I noticed watching competitions, for example, the higher the belts, the less they move. Because blue belts do it some, purple belts, like I've read an article about this, which is great. I think it was on BJJ World. And then I paid attention at the competition. They're like, you'll see purple belts just flying around, moving and wasting all this move, just crashing. And then like you look at brown belts, look at black belts.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't see the same amount of movement.
Yeah.
And everything seems like it's much more thought out, like you're paying attention. Like it seems like it slows down a lot. In some cases, I've seen the scrambles and like IBJJF matches and other competitions. But when we were grappling industries, I saw that a lot of the black belt matches, in the gi at least, were a lot slower.
Yeah. So, couple reasons for the speed difference. And again, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong. People could disagree with me. Totally cool.
Right.
But in my opinion, a couple factors. You just touched on one is the gi.
Right.
The gi slows things down. No gi is a slip and slide. Right. The gi, you can just hold on to things. There's more friction during the movement. The second thing, in my opinion, is what weight class. The lightweights are going to fly around and be more speedy, right?
That's a good.
The heavyweights are going to be slower and bulky. Look at a sports car compared to a big locomotive train, right? The lightweights can generate the burst speed sooner than the big locomotive that takes a little bit to generate, right?
Okay.
Now, in terms of skill level, white belts compared to black belts. White belts have, let's say it's day one, they have zero timing, they have zero technique. So how are they going to do their jiu-jitsu? They have to compensate for lack of timing and technique with speed and strength. That's why they do that. But the more you learn, the more you gather.
Right.
You don't have. You can shut those attributes off. You can still use them; they're there. But the true art, the true essence of jiu-jitsu, is not relying on those attributes.
Right.
So there are times like I said, the day ones. I call it the flying squirrel. Right. They try and shove your legs and jump on you for side control. Right. Meanwhile, it's not my fault when I put my knee back up and now I'm kneeing you in the chest. Like, that's on you, bro. You just try to jump on me, right? So they will eventually get the piece of the puzzle. But if you just ball up and you have your elbow knee shield connections and you're here, they can have at it. They can't. It's Fort Knox. They can't crack through the shell. So they can get spazzy, grab, do all these things, move around, jump around, go all these different angles. None of that movement. It's all wasted energy because they're making zero progress toward actually controlling your hips.
I recall doing that. That's one thing I remember starting out. You'd get that higher belt, like a brown belt or something, who would just like roll over.
Yeah.
And if I knew what like a combat base was or something like that, or any of those positions, like quarter mount, any of those positions, if I knew what those were, I would be like, okay, that's it. Technical mount for that matter. That's what I was looking for. Like I'd be like, okay, I'll do this, and I'll go for like the broken bow and arrow or something.
Yeah.
I had no clue, and you get this, and they fall over like they're taking a nap, and I'm just like scrambling, and then they just roll back and forth,
Simple,
and I'm just like, oh my god, jiu-jitsu is so hard, like I so want to quit. And then they're like, good job, buddy. I'm like, no, I can't even do anything when you're not trying. You know what I mean? I'm like, I finally got him, and then it's just like,
if anything, that's a testament to jiu-jitsu, right? That's what made me continue the journey. I got addicted since day one.
That's true.
It took my buddy, it took Brent 6 months to convince me to do it. And 6 months, he talked my ear off about it. I'm like, because we watched UFC one day. He's like, oh, that's half guard. Oh, he's got him in a Kimura.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? It just looked like two dudes. I had no perception of position at all. It just looked like their wacky inflatable arm flailing tube man. Like, what are you talking about?
And we can stop after this, take a quick break.
Yeah.
What did dude say? This might have been from Aikido, but somebody was like, it looks like two dudes on the ground looking for their contact lenses. Because they're just scrambling and like, with no context, people are like, well, so you're doing that wrestling? How's your wrestling going? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, so I want to go back into tap into the mindset a little bit, right? Because we talked about the emotions and things on the mat, or we were going to, and when we were talking about this, we took the break and before the podcast. I recall having times where there were just like very difficult people to train with, whether they were higher belts, like by a bunch, or just people that are maybe a little higher than me. I'm a white belt or a blue belt or something. Like, I had trouble navigating that, but I made things a game in training, and I realized like I shouldn't be as worried about them being difficult and try to just continue training and get better, because I'm going to tap. But like, is there advice you can give about that mindset and how to deal with emotions and navigate those things on the mat, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, jiu-jitsu can be a very frustrating, tough, grueling thing to go through, and not just physically, but mentally, because there's something very primal about sparring and playing a game of death with another grown man.
Right.
It's very primal. So it's good if you have that mindset, like you said, about making it a game. You want to manage your expectations.
Right.
Set healthy goals for yourself. Make them manageable. But again, manage the expectations.
Right.
Because if you have too high of expectations, that could lead to frustration.
Right.
If you have too much ego, that can lead to frustration and even getting hurt. Right? There were times where, a lot of times when I sparred, when I was training, I was going with lower belts, right? And I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to tap to the lower belt, so I'm just going to be stubborn.
Right.
That's when you get hurt.
There's that.
Especially the game of chicken. You're both going for a toe hold. How do you win the game of chicken?
The shootout.
Well,
I call it
you call it the shootout, yes. Okay, well, if you're both going for a toe hold, well, tendency is to go faster and harder. Who's going to go fastest and hardest to win? Who's going to be the one stubborn not wanting to tap? Those are the ones that I got hurt, right? So I'm like, you know what? It's all part of the learning process. You know what I mean? I'm not going to, if I chose to go at a certain pace with a lower belt, I'm going to continue that. Even if he starts getting the better of me, I'm not going to ramp it up.
Right.
Okay? I'm going to keep the same pace. No, this is what I decided. Because I've been on the opposite end of that. When I was a lower belt, I tapped a higher belt. It felt good, but not for very long, and they made sure of that. You know what I mean? So
revenge tap? You talking about revenge tap? That's what I call it.
So
everybody's got to pay.
So I just want to make sure that I'm not like that. Like, we're cool. Some people, they would tap me out and they would apologize. I'm like, don't apologize. This is great. That's what I want for you, right? Like, do that. Absolutely, I'm happy for you. That's what I'm here for. You know, I want them to get better. I want you to do better. You've tapped me out, right? That one day. You tapped me out 4 times in one day.
We might have to talk offline about these tales you tell. Tales of the Blackbelt. First of all,
very happy for you.
I'm sure you were. People should know I went on a tear before I was promoted to purple belt. I think you probably were advocating against me. I'm just joking. No, before purple belt, I went on this tear and I was like, I gotta tap a wall. And thankfully, I had good people like this to
you call it the list
me.
Or something?
Yeah, oh yeah, so I did. Ernest knows about this.
I was on that list.
I had a tap list, and thankfully coaches like this and Ernest and Cindy fueled my ego, and we're like, good God, buddy, wowzers, wow, because you did say something like wowzers when I caught you. I like caught him in a triangle finally,
Yes.
and I got him, and he was like, oh, did you tap me? I was like, I did, and you were like, yeah, and
I was happy
like,
for you, right?
I went home and told Jen,
Yeah.
and I was just like, wait a minute, what gives? No, but yeah, I get that. There's something to that mindset and keeping your head on, because we do want to celebrate, but I feel like as you get more, or as I become more efficient or proficient in training, like I'm less worried about like I did the tap, like I did the thing. Like I'm more like, well, I gotta get better. I gotta work on this, or like I pay more attention in my roles, and this is probably to my detriment. Sometimes I pay less attention to like points when I'm supposed to be preparing for competition. And I pay more attention to what I couldn't do as opposed to the things that worked. So there's some times where I'm like, I'm not even worried about, I got this toe hold, or I did this bow and arrow or something. I'm like, man, if my triangles weren't firing, or I got into this position I couldn't get out, I had trouble getting into technical mount. Like I'm more worried about the things that failed than the things that actually I was successful in. Right?
Well, I mean, you're only as good as your weakest link, right? If you just absolutely cannot escape side control,
right?
The second you go to side control, it might as well be over, right? So you have to work on the weaknesses. You have to have a solid foundation. Your game can't be made out of Swiss cheese, right? So firm up the weaknesses.
Right.
But you also have to make sure that you've done the reps so things do get stronger.
Right.
And competitively, you want to funnel people into your game. You want to be active and not reactive. That's when you know you're in control.
So it shouldn't be like, oh crap, I gotta catch up because like someone's getting the better hand, right?
Yeah,
or upper hand.
Be
rather.
calm, because the second you lose control over your emotions, you're done. Because sports, jiu-jitsu, anything where you're using your body, it is a battle of the mind. It's manifesting physically.
Right.
So if you can't control your emotions, then you can't control your body, let alone either a tennis ball or your opponent's body.
Right.
And that's also a display of weakness. If people can see how easily you can lose control of your emotions, that's going to give them more confidence. They're going to know that they can manipulate you. They're going to start to flow. You don't want that. You have to be stoic. You can't go on an emotional roller coaster.
Right.
You can't be super happy for the things that go well, super sad for the things that don't. You have to stay even-keeled, have good positivity, bring good energy, and stay focused. It's focused aggression.
Right. There was another thing I know we were talking about offline before we got on the podcast. I think we talked about it a little bit, like the variety of techniques as I grow. Like I get into a point where I'm like, oh, I'm really good at this stuff. And you talked about it with like, we use a triangle example. Like if you're good at triangles, maybe build your game off of triangles. Can you elaborate on that? And like the from the point of view of like people who are up and coming like myself, or like newer, like they're white belts, they're blue belts or something, they're still building their game. Like how do we expand and how do we improve and not just chase the fancy internet stuff? Like how do we focus and...
Yeah, I mean, anyone can put anything on the internet, right?
And I mean that in a good way, but like chasing things that, let me add a little more context, sorry. Chasing what's more beneficial to my growth than looking at things that are more visually appealing that may not necessarily be best for me right now in my growth and development.
I mean, everyone's going to start to, as you develop, everyone's going to have their own style, their own game, what fits with your body type, what fits with your attributes, what fits with your personality.
Right.
Sports is a good way to express yourself, right? Let your personality shine through, right? Through self-expression. But everyone needs to have a solid foundation. Right? So, for example, what that means in jiu-jitsu, for me anyway, conceptually, jiu-jitsu is self-defense. So, stage one, you need to know how to survive. You're not going to escape, but you need to know if you're stuck under mount forever, become untappable. Know all the defenses and survival postures. Don't get tapped in mount, right?
Right.
Next is the escape. You can survive, now escape. Okay, good, I'm escape, right? You can do attacks from the bottom, but for me, for my size, I'd much rather have gravity as my friend. I'd much rather be on top. That's where I
Right.
get more leverage.
Yeah, we talked about
Yes.
the top low position. You're being more comfortable there.
So survive, escape, sweep. Now in terms of, instead of reacting, now you're acting. Now you have to maintain position. If people are out in 2 seconds, you don't have any control. Forget about getting subs.
Right.
Maintain your position, then you can go for the submissions. So conceptually, that's my foundation.
Right.
In terms of growth.
Okay.
Now, how you fill that in, it could be like a little ad lib sort of thing, right? Solve the puzzle how you want. Fill in how you want. But that's where you should start. If you're trying to go on YouTube and look up fancy flying things that are super impractical,
Right.
forget it, right? You want to build a game that's simple, effective, efficient, can work on bigger guys, things where you do a little and gain a lot of value. You don't want to have to do a lot just to gain a little bit of value. That's insufficient. That's a lower form of technique.
Right.
Better technique is when you do a little and obtain a lot.
Right.
Right? It should look easy.
Right.
And that's what people say when someone's at a high level. Oh, you make it look so easy. That's how you know your technique and your timing is on point.
That's awesome.
But not only in terms of having a good foundation, having the right mindset, the right attitude, that will facilitate the growth. That will give you the confidence for you to know that you can keep going. Just keep going. Don't stop.
Right.
Don't quit. Quitting. Here's the thing. People are so afraid to fail that they don't even try, or they give up too easily. They make excuses.
Right.
But the thing is, failure is reserved for winners, and quitting is reserved for losers. Do not quit. There's a saying in jiu-jitsu, a black belt is a white belt who never quit.
That's right.
Just keep going. And I know how tough it could be. I've been through the journey. You're going through the journey too, right? It's
there's like
frustrating.
life,
it's tough.
aside from like life decisions, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like not things like I moved, there's no gym near me, or like, you know, I'm married now and things, and like I had like finding a way to even like a day or like once a month or something.
Anything.
Yeah.
Anything's better than nothing. Progress is progress.
Consistency in some
Consistency.
frame of format.
That's right.
Yeah, because I found that because when obviously the big COVID took everybody out, I was like, Jen will tell you, I was just like, I can't quit. I have to go back. I was like, I have, because I knew so many people who had started and then they stopped for whatever reason. So I was like, they can't be me. Like,
Right.
unless something just magically
Yeah.
takes me out. Like, I was like, I have to come back.
Yeah, if you stop, the longer you take to come back, it gets even harder.
But it felt so good after COVID to get back into
Yes.
it. Like, I had reconnected with Sandy and Ernest at Jackson's North Star. And I was just like, oh man, I'm back. And then I stopped a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I got back into it. And obviously I met you and have been torturing you ever since. And I refuse to do anything you tell me on the I refuse to do anything you teach me. No, but it felt so much better to come back, and I wanted it so badly. It was so much easier to just go in. Like I wasn't like worried anymore. I wasn't worried about getting tapped. I didn't care. I was just like, oh my God, I couldn't do this for so long. I felt like there were people that were still training.
Right, and now you're enjoying it.
And I was like, forget about
Yeah.
all the people who have maybe gotten promoted and
Yeah.
did that. Like, I'm
Yep.
not
You're
doing
on
this
your own
for them.
journey.
Because I've played that game in Aikido land where,
Yeah.
oh, well, Charles got promoted. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, Charles of Aikido.
Yeah, it's the worst
There's
thing
no one
to
named
do
Charles.
is-
I'm just making up a name. I'll name it Bleep Blarp, whatever. But what I'm saying is, like, I've seen that and have dealt with, like, the battle of the ranks in the South. And I realized, like, just do your thing. And the
Do your
minute
thing.
it was, like, for me, generally for me, it was so much easier.
That's it. It's your journey.
So much fun.
It's your journey.
Yeah.
They say don't compare yourself to others, right? It's go at your own pace. Progress is progress.
Right.
You're there for your self-improvement.
Right.
And that's the thing. You came back with the right mindset. You were
Thanks,
just
yeah.
so happy to
just
be back.
be there
to
at a
be
good
there.
gym. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? Yeah.
Like the winning should not be the goal. The self-improvement and the growth should be the goal.
Right.
And the winning will come as a consequence of that self-improvement and growth.
Right.
And that's just the right you need to approach it with the right attitude, the right mindset, the right mentality, because there's nothing that'll stunt someone's growth than going in there with the wrong mindset and the wrong attitude. You want to put the ego at the door.
Dangerous, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want less ego and more humility.
Right.
Because the people that come in with egos, they don't last. They can't handle it. Like I said, this is very primal what we're doing. Doesn't feel good for a grown man to manhandle you. It just doesn't.
Just be slapped around and just like
that's it. Yep.
rolled up into. What do they say about jiu-jitsu? It's the art of folding
Involuntary,
clothes while
yeah.
you're still in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, involuntary yoga.
Yeah,
Right.
I
Yes.
like that one too.
Yes, but just manage the expectations.
Right.
Go in there and understand that you're just starting out. Upper belts are going to tap you, and it's not going to be violent. It's you're not going to get hurt. Hopefully. You know
Well,
what I mean?
let's
It depends.
let's talk
Depends
about
on the
that.
people. Depends on the context.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, for the most part, it's not an impact sport. It's a contact sport.
Okay.
So you can be relatively safe. The thing is, you have to pick and choose your training partners wisely.
That was my next
Yes.
question. How do we break that? And sorry to break
No,
the flow,
please,
but
yeah.
I know we were talking about this a little bit offline. For someone newer, because I think as you get higher up, and like I'm less concerned with this now, like there's people I know if like not even a frame of mind, like there's people I can get hurt training with.
Yeah.
I'm not doing
Yeah.
absolute divisions at 39. I have no interest. Everyone's bigger than me anyway at like what am I, 145 right
Yeah.
now? I've never, maybe if I'm on a good strength training routine and I'm like on it like crazy, like I'll hit like 149, 150. And I'll get put in 150 anyway, even at like 143, depending upon where I'm at in a weight fluctuation. But like sometimes there's people like in an open mat, sometimes I gauge the room and I'm just
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't want any of that.
Yeah, and that's
Like
totally
you like
fine.
300 pounds.
Yeah.
I don't know you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm not doing
Yeah,
that.
totally fine. I mean, look, I try, and we try to cultivate an environment that's pretty informal, pretty relaxed.
Right.
Want everyone to feel safe, to feel comfortable. You can pick and choose who you want to roll with. You can stop and start whenever you want.
Right.
There's no pressure, and that's what I like about it, because for me as a black belt, there are still training partners that I say, no, you're too big, and I don't want any part of that. I need my body for work. I need my brain to think and live a happy, healthy life.
Yeah.
So there are certain people that just like to go hard, and that's fine. Find other people that like to go hard, right? But in terms of the safety, I try not to go more than 50 or 60% of my strength and speed. And like if you need strength and speed, you're not actually doing jiu-jitsu. You should be using timing and technique, right? That's true, pure jiu-jitsu. So that's also why I like when people get really, really tired and they need to sit. And they push themselves instead of sitting. They do that extra round.
Because what you have in the tank is what you have. Let's clarify this, because this is your just breaking down the black belt knowledge. I mean, we're using strength, but we're not just forcing technique because I may be big. Like me working with one of the smaller teens, or me working with the kids, because those are the only people smaller than me. If I'm like, oh, you're 5, crunch, like, right? Like I'm just relying on I'm bigger and I can squash you, as opposed to like,
The structure, right?
Right. There's
Structure.
okay, yeah. Because I feel like, and maybe this is an internet thing I've read about where people are like, strength is a factor, strength is it, and I'm just like, well, hold on, friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, strength will be a factor, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a black belt going up 100-pound white belt compared to 300-pound white belt. The 300-pound white belt's going to do better than the 100-pound white belt. Am I still going to win? Yes, black belt, white belt, right? But if you have 2 black belts, or even 2 purple belts, assume that they're just equally skilled in jiu-jitsu across the board.
Right.
The person with the strength, the speed, all of that stuff,
Someone
all
who's
the
in
attributes, that's obviously
better
a
condition,
factor.
I guess, right?
The only time where those physical attributes don't matter is chess. That is literally a battle of the mind, right? Now this is human chess, but the attributes are a factor.
Right.
Yes, they are there. There is value to be had there. But the purest form of jiu-jitsu is when you can shut that off as much as possible.
Right.
So that's when you know that you're starting to get pretty proficient, pretty effective. When people say, oh man, you make it look so easy. Well, that's also because you've done it a million times. You have to get the reps in, right? And that's going to build your confidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm back to the thing about rolling with certain people. You know, because when I compete, when I'm getting ready to compete, it's usually like that week or two before. I'm like, hold up, because I've done it in the past where like I've just blasted, and I should slow down a little bit and just be drilling or just whirling with people that I'm comfortable with that can just keep a solid pace.
Yeah.
Like flowing a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I gotta go hard to the end, and I go into my competition all banged up.
Right, yeah, you don't want that.
Like I don't pace myself, like I don't ease off the strength training, and I'm just like all like my diet's all jacked up. Not that I'm eating a bunch of junk, like my sleep's off. Like I'm just not putting myself in that mindset.
Right.
And like I'm not living that lifestyle. But the last competition, which I think helped, like I was doing all the right things. And that day, you remember that day, you were like, you're not doing more? I was like, nah, I'm going to sit out.
Right.
Because I knew how I felt.
That's absolutely right.
Knew, like, I'm still working a full-time day job and stuff. I'm like helping coach and doing other things. So I'm like, I got too much stuff going on. I can't supplement that rest I need versus the training I want to get extra. So I have to balance those out. And that helped. So I went in there feeling pretty fresh, all things considered.
Yeah, and that's good. That'll put you in the right frame of mind.
Yeah.
Those who fail to prepare to fail.
Right.
You have to do, if you're getting ready for a competition, you really need to do what it takes to get ready for that competition.
And that might be different for, we have different training schedules,
different for each person, right?
Yeah.
But make sure that you're doing what you need to do.
Right.
Some people purposely don't do what they need to do, or some people, like I'll see it in tennis, right before I go to play with people, we'll do a little doubles, and someone's like, oh yeah, you know, I didn't get much sleep, or oh yeah, I haven't played tennis in a few weeks. They're already making excuses, right? It's like, I don't want to hear it. If you're out on the court, you're out on the court. If you're going to compete, you're going to compete.
Yeah.
I don't want excuses. You are stunting your growth and you are lying to yourself.
Yeah, I hear you.
The worst thing you can do in sports is lie to yourself. That will stunt your growth beyond belief. You just can't learn, you can't grow if you make excuses. Because if you chalk it up to, oh, he's bigger than me. Well, it's like, no, you could have hip escaped and done this or done that. Or oh, right there, you could have grabbed this and countered here. You didn't defend like this. There was a hole here.
Right.
You missed out on. You like no excuses.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a way to get better. It's
Absolutely.
like I feel, I mean, if I listen, people, if I can get better, you can get better. Because Anyone
can get better.
Watched. I can't tell me classes. Tony was probably like, okay, give him a chance.
Anyone can get better. But that's the thing. Don't do it till you get it right. Do it till you can't get it wrong. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I know we're coming close on time. Anything else? I know we touched on a lot of things I wanted to talk about, but like biggest takeaways for people who are up and coming, like myself. Sure. Like, what advice do you have for them to either keep them motivated or just to maintain longevity in their training? Like, what can you share to kind of keep the fires burning for us up and coming jiu-jitsu people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's going to be a difference between motivation and discipline. What gets you started, what gets you in the door is motivation. You're motivated to do it. Right? But motivation, it's like the new car smell. It kind of wears off. What keeps you going is the discipline to keep going. Say, these are the rules I set for myself. This is what I'm going to do. The best time to train is when you don't feel like training. Get your ass in the door, do it, and at the end, I guarantee that you're going to thank yourself for having done it, even though you didn't feel like doing it.
I've had days where I'm like,
those are the
I
best
don't know.
days.
I don't know if I'm going to make it tonight.
Those are the best days.
I feel guilty now because I'm like, should I? No, I don't text. So just go.
That's
what I do is like, on those days, like, I shout out to Coach Ben and Coach Rachel. I'm so tired from work this whole week. Like my sleep's off, whatever. And I'm like, all right, if I don't go in and help with the kids, I'm going to be late for the teams. And if I'm late for the teams, I'm gonna be like, I can't go to Tony's class.
Yeah, but
so I'm just like, no, get your ass there early.
I mean,
help.
look, you can either suffer the pain of discipline or you can suffer the pain of regret. Only one leads to a positive outcome.
That's true. I think there's a little bit of FOMO for me too. Except for that Wednesday class that they need to start having, because I know there's no Wednesday class.
Yeah.
No, I see those pictures and I'm like, oh man, I missed it. And then you, Captain Slickface, you're like, oh yeah, we worked on who was here last night. And you know damn well who was there last night. And you're like, so you weren't there last night? Oh, I guess I can't show you the secrets. And I'm just like,
next time you don't come in, I'm going to show everyone how to pass your guard.
Show look, whatever. Like, show them the secrets.
The anti-soul class.
Awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Obviously, how to find you.
So Instagram, Tony_Patarino.
Cool. And I'll share your socials and whatnot. But thanks.
Sweet.
Always a pleasure, Coach Brogram.
Yes, sir.
Folks,
Cool.
Thanks for watching. We'll obviously do more of these with Coach Brogram.
Cool.
And thanks for tapping in.